It's only the Allianz Leagues. It's only February. Only a warm-up. Only a relegation. Only a bit of fun. It's only a debut. Only hundreds of competitive matches and thousands of players giving it their all. Only an unstoppable passion for GA across the whole nation. It's only 30 years of Allianz supporting the leagues, and we're not done yet. Only the leagues. Only the Allianz Leagues.
A grain of rice is going to tip the scale. Just remember that, lad. There's a small bit of a needle there. Now, come on, Mayo, you've got to get Andy Moran into the game.
Our mission was to show that we're no longer the whipping boys of Munster.
Morning, gents. How are you doing?
Yeah. Good, how are you?
Yeah, very good.
Good. We'd like to welcome
very
Sean.
good, Dalo.
Yeah. Go on. No, it's not all going to be about fantasy hurling out today, like, you know. But fair play.
I won't mention it.
Fair play to Patrick Mulcahy. He should just enter the championship competition himself, put in his own team, and he could win it. Patrick, if you're listening, you know you won the league.
Dalo. I transferred Patrick Mulcahy now down to Seanie McGrath this year because that's that's what he'd be good at now. Giving Seanie 15 and now a chance to a leg up this year. So Pam Mull has gone over to him now. He's no longer on my team. Like, just to clarify that now. Like, Charlie and myself, and Charlie's 8 years of age. So myself and Charlie are picking the team this year.
Charlie must be picking it so.
I think you need to give the listeners a bit of a Corkness warning this morning. We have double Corkness, and obviously with the team flying it and the fantasy team flying it, just a little bit of a warning for the next hour and a half or so.
I think they do be ready for that anyway, TJ, every day, even if they're going bad. They're making about Cork, like, you know. Yeah, we're delighted to be joined from his 3.4 million mansion on the Blackrock Road, and it's looking well in the background there by Mr. Will-o'-the-Wisp, Sean McGrath. How are you, Shawnee?
Hi, Dalo. Good. How are you, boy?
The Norries are just a dim, distant memory.
Absolutely. I have a forest growing behind me here in the background and everything.
Oh, Sean Mike next door.
He's good.
Hey, come here. The Norries were back into Páirc Uí Chaoimh on Saturday night, Shawnee, because poor old Davy Fitz nearly got trampled on there with the supporters. Like,
oh, that's right.
What's going on there?
At the end of it, himself and Jackie during the interview was the whole, wasn't it?
Well, Jackie was all right. He had a bit of size. Fitz, he was under pressure. Like.
He was under a bit of pressure, yeah. Just with some atmosphere. There was a massive crowd, wasn't there?
Unreal. 14,000 people for a league game, like. And you know what the mad thing about that is? It doesn't seem when you're watching, because the stadium is so big, obviously. But huge.
Great buzz there. Yeah.
You're flying, Shani. I won't let your man in at all now on this. You're absolutely flying. You've discovered new lads, young lads, and old lads now are starting. Connolly Han coming off the bench, settling everything down. Hoggy 1-2 or 1-3 from play. Harnedy 4 points in play, and all these young fellas flying as well. Like, it's unbelievable.
Yeah. And there's a small bit of a grin there. You're just trying to lead us on now a little bit and build us up for a big fall. I know you're form well, boy. There is a great buzz below.
Yeah.
It was a great win, and I think Kieran had to set a stall out and go for the league, really. Give it a right rattle. So they're on 8. They're qualified now, aren't they, basically?
Yeah.
Themselves in Wexford. So the next day they're playing for
one position.
So it's what's interesting on the other side is 1B. I tried to do some of the permutations this morning. That's really up for grabs. That's going to be a ferocious final day.
Dublin could still make it, like. No, you wouldn't say Saturday night watching them.
Yeah, the Dubs are on 5.
If Waterford beat Kilkenny and Dublin win their game, which you'd expect against Laois.
Yeah, look.
7.
Dublin will be in the semi-final, and it's a straight shootout between Waterford and Kilkenny. Dublin beat Laois.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, Dublin won't be if...
No, If Kilkenny win,
Dublin
Mark,
beat Laois
Kilkenny
2-7.
Waterford and Kilkenny go through. If
Kilkenny win, Waterford and Kilkenny will go through.
because Waterford have the head. No, it goes scoring difference, but Waterford's
Scoring difference, yeah.
is way
Kilkenny have a better scoring difference than Dublin.
No, Waterford have a better one. That's what you have to look at. Because if Kilkenny beat Waterford, it'll be themselves in Dublin on 7 points. Kilkenny have 8 points.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're right, actually.
Yeah.
If you put as much time into studying now for the programme as you're doing for the fantasy hurling, of all this sort of stuff.
And was Waterford and Dublin a draw? Was it at the start?
Yeah.
Was it?
Yeah.
Tough game.
So would it have come down to the head-to-head, or was it a scoring difference for this?
Well, the head-to-head was a draw. Yeah, the head-to-head was a draw.
Oh, I know that, but I know that.
Head-to-head first,
Head-to-head first, yeah. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Then scoring, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the biggest game in that, Mark. The biggest game in 2 weeks. The biggest game in 2 weeks' time, Mark, for sure. Though, when you look at it, is the clash of Limerick and Offaly, the repeat of '94, because the losers of that would go down into the relegation playoff, probably to play Antrim. I know Antrim have played Tipp, but that is the biggest one in 2 weeks' time, isn't it?
Actually, it's a massive game. There's no doubt. But I suppose listen to John Kiley after yesterday's match. He's look, even though they've lost all the games so far, I think his message was loud and clear that it was a way better performance over the weekend, and that for the next 2 weeks they'll have a lot of heavy training going on, and I think they're probably timing their run, Anthony, to be in a good position in probably 5 weeks' time for the first round of the Championship. The league is of no significance or relevance to them, and I think the worst thing we could do now is be talking down Limerick here to small, and I think they're still the All-Ireland champions 3 times in the last 4 years. They haven't gone away, and they won't be gone away. But they probably have a couple of irritating counties, maybe Cork and Waterford, that are coming up on their wing mirrors now. And, it was from a Cork perspective. Yeah, I'd say irritating now because Cork have improved, I would say.
You were always that, anyway.
Waterford have improved, all right. Yeah. Well, look, we're kind of a crowd that when we get clingy, you kind of find it hard to get rid of us,
Oh, that's for sure.
I mean, the fact that you brought on Seanie today, is a classic case. You really want us to be clinging onto yourself and TJ,
The old pal, sure, I have to give him a shot there every few weeks. No, it was TJ. I had a litany of disasters yesterday between lads on the toll bridge holding me up and jumping out of my own car and putting in the €2. His name just won't come to me now. I mentioned him this morning in the article. It was very funny. Just a small world now, when I said, we all want to go to the park, kid, and throw in the €2. He was trying to swipe his credit card on the coin. He was in the wrong lane, basically. He was mortified. So he just didn't have a €2 and he was pressing the help button and nothing happening. But he was able to thank me on Twitter afterwards. He said, I was about to abandon the car, Dalo. Thanks for that there, the €2. And I said, don't worry, kid. I didn't even get to the park. We broke down 2 miles further on the motorway. So, oh God, we got a basic puncture, Mark, and I couldn't get the last nut off, lads, for loving our money. And the little wheel brace thing to get the nuts off. Yeah, it nearly snapped. Wouldn't change. Oh, it wouldn't change a Santa Claus.
It's a long time now. It's a long time since you changed the tire, right there. Somehow.
Sometimes you have to do it at times. You can't be ringing, but wait to ring the helpline anyway.
Oh, for Christ!
After buying 2 tickets for the match, 30 quid. I had to pay 100 quid in to get your man out in the tow truck. In the meantime, a lad stopped for us about 45 minutes later and fixed it. He came out with it. was a mechanic. Came out with his toolbox. It's no problem. He copped me on the side of the road. All the Limerick crowd passed me out on the way out to the match. But anyway, sure.
Did you see the Limerick crowd? They were all
yeah.
They were all the crowd waving at you. Waving and laughing.
After I've given them 3 years of my life there, David Dolan, yeah, that's David there. Larry just flashy bailed me out, huge embarrassment. And I realised, gets fair play to him. But yeah, after giving them 3 years of my life inside in the academy there, Mark, the one of them wouldn't pull in, and so
I know. Hard to believe. Hard to believe that now. But here, Dalo, here's the funny thing now. I went to Welsh Park yesterday, right? And our old friends, the ticket master, myself and Charlie bowled up to the door. I says, come here. Is there any chance I'd be able to pay to get in here? He says, no. He said, if you put your phone up to the picture there now, he said, take a picture of that. He said, you get on the Ticketmaster. So get on the Ticketmaster and you've got 20 minutes to complete your transaction. And after 5 minutes, I was still trying to, it added to the cart and I couldn't pay for it. And I went back to him and said, come here, I said, this yoke isn't working at all. No, and I said, I'm not great on it. He said, look, keep going. So I gave another 5 minutes at it, no chance. So there was a girl, he called one of the girls. He says, come here. He said, can you help? She says, here's 2 free tickets. She said, we have a few spare ones for fellas like you. She said, they can't handle the internet. No, it wasn't the internet was the problem. But anyway, thank you very much to the people in Welsh Park yesterday for leaving in the Corkman for free. It was great. So Dalo, there you go now. There's a tale of 2 stories now over the weekend. Yeah. You had your tickets bought and you didn't get to the destination.
Yeah. Bought the 2 ladies' lunch in Limerick first, or a bit anyway. Paid for that out of gratitude from collecting me in Limerick Junction. And then paid 30 quid. Orla said, I'll buy them. And I said, go on, here's 30 quid. And then call out fella, 100 quid. No match. Came down for a pint after I watched it. Thank God for TG Cahir. They were showing that I got home in time for Laois and Antrim.
And Antrim.
And then I the whole of Clare and Limerick, and then I said, "Feck this, I'm going for a pint."
Did you stay for the Sunday game?
No, I went up home for the Sunday game. That's anyone was here can testify. I went up home.
And did you see? Did you see the massacre?
The massacre.
4-1 United and City. Just so you know, had a word with Ralph during the week and said, listen, we can't let Liverpool get any closer. 2-1 would do. 4-1 was a bit embarrassing. We went a bit over the top, but at least it's pushed out to 6 points again now for all the Liverpool supporters out there. You'll have to win it on your own, lads. Don't be relying on Manchester United for you.
Well, I didn't watch it, but I just switched on Sky Sports, and all I could hear was a rant from Cork again. It's worse every day we get a rant from Cork.
But just so you know, Mark, we don't need your help. It's in our own hands. If we win all our games from here to the end of the season, we don't need any help from you. And you know what? I wouldn't even want it. And Keano out again yesterday. He called the shots very clear.
He said, "Hi, come here. Points in the bag now are more important than games to be played for, as you know yourself."
Yeah. He got muted there.
Good idea, Dalo.
Muted there, lad. Yeah. We'll come back to you in about 55 minutes, Mark.
Yeah. And you know.
You would know.
I'm actually Mark. I'm heading over to meet Jurgen tomorrow in Liverpool. He invited me to the match to see Inter tomorrow night, which is good. Looking forward to that. Myself and Young for going over. And just to close out that, I was in Cusack Park, Dalo, yesterday. I didn't get any invite. I was roughing it in the shade. Good atmosphere, I have to say.
Only place to watch a game there.
Always place to watch a game, yeah. But there was nice plush red seats on the far side. Plenty of them empty. So maybe you could have a word for me for the championship match coming down the road, and show we might be able to see if we can do something. Myself and myself go over there.
The 2023 round robin, I'll try my best. Okay. I'm a bit hamstrung at the moment to getting tickets in the park. But TJ, there's a huge crowd, a huge atmosphere looking at it now yesterday, and I had Clare FM on the car eventually when we got moving. But the great commentary from Fergal Hegarty and Sil O'Connor. Great welter of excitement. It finished in anyway for sure.
Yeah, I think that might have been the fact it was close, probably maybe overshadowed some of the game. It wasn't a good game, Dalo. I thought a lot of it was ordinary. For me, from a Limerick point of view, not a huge amount of positives either. Yes, it was a draw after they went down to the 14 men. You could say they dug it out. But just a couple of facts in the game is that, strangely enough, David Reedy levels the game on 24 minutes gone in the second half at 17 points all. Right, there was 6 minutes of additional time, which left in the remaining 17 minutes of the game in Cusack Park on a very good spring day with minor enough wind. Right, it was 1 point all. That's what the remaining 17 minutes of the game. Like if the game was played in reverse after 17 minutes of a game was 1 point all, you'd say it was ordinary. The intensity wasn't there for me. From a Limerick point of view, their scoring stats is a concern. The amount of ruck ball that they're winning is a concern. Some of the touch handling, unforced errors, which they have been very good at over the last number of years. You probably have seen that yesterday with just simple balls that went to fellas, and it was a missed touch and a missed catch. And like again, another stat: like, which is incredible today, right, is out of the 12 teams in Division 1 in the hurling, right, so 6 in Division 1A and 6 in Division 1B, we have scored 66 points in total, Mark, and it is the lowest of the 12. No disrespect to Laois, Antrim, Offaly, and those other teams, is we are, for scores for, we are bottom of the 12.
Wow, that's fair. Peter Casey, any chance you get a new leg for Peter Casey, quick?
Yeah. So there are some concerns. I did hear John after the game, and like I watched Shane very briefly as well on the Sunday game last night. The amazing thing about teams in sport, right, is that when some team finds a way, so when Wexford got that piece, and maybe Dara deserves the credit for that and the way he set his stall out, is that, you know yourself, Dalo, in modern day sport, is that the next team that's playing you, they cling to that. They'll see what did he do successfully, and teams have built on that and just added a face to it. So John referenced no flow in the game for Limerick, and that's coming about that teams are now stepping off to the 45-yard line. No problem, you can have the ball all day. There's zero engagement there. Now we've all our players in the right positions. We're not getting any angle ball into the boys inside. There's no kind of really way to play through that middle third as good as they have done in the past. And it's definitely causing an issue for Limerick. And that's why the flow isn't there and the scores aren't coming. They did start with Garrod Hegarty at 15 yesterday. They started with Cathal O'Neill at 10, Keane at 11 and Tom at 12, with Garrod at free ball at 15. He didn't have an influence in the game in any kind of reasonably way that he can do. So they were trying something a little bit different there. But yeah, there are concerns. And I did think with the team they'd picked beforehand, I thought this was a good opportunity to get back to winning ways. Tony Kelly's just back. Clare have had a few injuries. I thought this would have been a nice game to win, then go on and have a win over Offaly, and then obviously have their training structure way to the first round. But certainly, yeah, there certainly are warning signs there. And amazingly, right, we actually won't be able to quantify what the league meant or means to Limerick until probably later in April, because if Limerick come out, as Mark said there, and their run has been timed to perfection, and they beat Cork in the first round of the championship, well, what John did was very much right? And if the championship doesn't go according to plan, well, then the first thing you're going to say is, well, lads, the warning signs were there. So it's kind of like you won't be able to fully quantify it until then. But at this moment in time, for me, the scores aren't flowing, the game isn't flowing, the handling errors and the basics aren't as good as they have been. So, yes, a little concern.
But TJ, on that, form, there's a few lads struggling for form. I would clearly say that we have to say maybe much of that half-forward line are struggling for form, which is such a platform. Maybe even midfield was a bit of a concern yesterday. But the patterns of play are not going to change, TJ. Like when you go down to Cork are just going to say, go and have the puck out, go on, Nicky. You can hit it to Sean Finn, you can hit it to Richie English, Barry Nash, whoever, Dan Morrissey. But we're not engaging them fellas. We'll be attacking the second ball. Like what? I know I can't. It's very hard to ask you this, and the boys did say it last night even, that if any man can come up with something, it'd be Kinnerk to change it up. But it's very hard to see what can change, though. No, they'll still be every bit as good as anyone else because of the personnel they have. And if you're playing the same game, if Clare are saying there, you have the puck out, Limerick can do the same, and then they can win it from there. But the powerhouse and stuff of the last couple of years, hard to see that being there, blowing teams apart,
Yeah, and I can't disagree with you. And I'm going to say two things here. We all know, well, you guys definitely know, the form is temporary and class being permanent, right? We know that, and this team has been class for the last number of years. There is a change required. It is possible the geniuses that Paul and John and the boys there, and there's a lot of intelligence around the game. Shine O'Donnell on the video, and they will know better than anybody else exactly the way teams are setting up. They do have a couple of things they could do. I'm thinking now, I know you were beating this drum a long time. I know he was injured yesterday. Might be maybe Kyle Hayes back to that half-forward line. That could be very possible. Richie English is playing well in the corner, which would free up a potential Barry Nash to go to a left half-back position, which I don't think would take a massive amount away from the backs. Right, and I think that we would need something. Then I know you're going to ask me, where would you play Keane and all that kind of stuff. And there's room for all of them on the team. Peter Casey is a big loss. He won't be back for the Munster Championship, that is for sure. Barry Murphy won't make the Munster Championship. So, and Cathal O'Neill is improving. He's young, game on game. But I'm just thinking the way the game is set up there, and maybe that these guys have kept this because they will go away now, say, after the last game against Offaly, and like the teams in the league semi-final, and Sheedy touched on it last night in the league final, you'll be able to read them exactly because they won't be able to change a game plan much in that week before the Munster Championship. So Limerick will have the opportunity to try something different. I am expecting it. What it will be, I don't know. I wouldn't be privy to that, but it will be something. I think we're going to see something different come the championship, and I think that Kyle Hayes is the card that could be the change there.
Yeah, interesting. What price are they now, Mark?
I don't know, but I'd say, like we said the last week, they'd be a drifter. They went from 8 to 13 to 8 to 11. I'd say you'd be getting a bit of even, so maybe 11 to 10, I'd say, at the moment now.
I would definitely say easily, Mark. Like, as I said to you, all the stats and all the facts, and you can say what you like about heavy training and maybe the league wasn't a massive concern. It's easy to say it now when you haven't won a game. But, like, there's no doubt over the last couple of years, their form was better at this stage, even though they mightn't have won the games there last year, but they were definitely playing better and their scoring rate was higher. And I would say, like, there are plenty concerns there for John. But as I said, no smarter boys to have a look at this. They won't need any of us, and they won't need to be listening to us, Mark, to tell them about anything. They will definitely know.
But from what
I would still have faith.
But for what you've taught us, like, Kylie does listen to us, like, so, I suppose the clear message, TJ, is a couple of things, like, to be a big help in it if you keep 15 fellas in the field of play to get a few more scores on it, like, because they're sending off again yesterday, so that still hasn't been addressed.
Yeah, and
John's interview, he was very much defensive of Aaron. Like, he just said basically, if Conor Cleary got up off the ground, like, that'd be more concerned the ref should be. But it's a clear sending off, TJ.
No doubt about it. It's definitely a second yellow. Like, Aaron would have got away with the first swing. The second one, even though he didn't massively connect, you just can't do that. It's a card. No complaints. The only thing I'm going to say, Mark, is, like, and I know what your reaction is going to be here now, so I'm going to be careful as exactly how I phrase it. Right? Was it a penalty?
I actually didn't see the game, DJ, to be honest with us.
Well, if you look,
would you have a look at the Sunday game some Sunday night to be a help? You'd see that.
I go to bed early on a Sunday night, to be honest with us. I work on a Monday morning and I have a podcast as well, like, so I go to bed early.
You ride out early on a Monday morning, don't you?
Correct.
I'm not going to deflect away for 1 second, Dalo, but if you look at the incident that Jack Brown was fouled for and carded for, right, is like Conor Cleary is making zero effort to play the ball on that point that ball is landing. What Aaron Gillan did was wrong. It is a second yellow card. You cannot say any different. But for me, like, that's the handling. No, am I looking at this with green glasses?
Long enough now to know those high balls coming in.
I did, but to be honest about it, you will get away with a certain amount of that. But to me, that was over the top, completely wrestled, arm around the neck. It's a penalty.
Will you go away? How can you compare the two sendings off? Jesus. And stop. Well, Jack Brown, persistent fouling. It must be the first fella sent off in this year's league for persistent fouling, anyway.
Agreed. But what did Jack Brown get sent off for?
Persistent fouling, I think.
Yeah, it was an arm around Cathal O'Neill's neck, which was nowhere as bad as Conor Cleary's one. Like, but look, as I said, that's the way fullbacks play. Do the Limerick boys do it at the other end of the pitch? Of course they do. But I'm just saying, like, we are, because of everything that's gone on in the limelight now. But I can't condone what Aaron did was stupid. I'm sure John will be telling him that. Like, you can't give these guys a reason. Like.
But TJ, you know now, right? If you were going out to the under-12s, right, down in Kilkenny, Spillane, Clare Castle, or Glen Rovers, and the fella's on a yellow card, what would you be telling them? Whatever you do now is don't get another one, like.
Yeah, and I can't disagree with you there, Mark. The only thing I will say is, and I'm not going to mention any player's name, right, but in the games that I saw over the weekend, right, in Kilkenny and Dublin, right, in Cork and Galway, right, a couple of Galway players, maybe more so than the Cork fellas, right, is if those guys were wearing green jerseys, right, would be calling for cards this morning, Mark. So is the playing field level? That is the question.
It's,
Shawnee,
it's totally level.
Just to ask you there, Shawnee, like when you're champions like that, like there's a target on your back, like isn't there other teams are coming up with any way to beat you, like, and there's no doubt about it, like lads are probably provoking lads, and in other years there probably wasn't that element going on, but everything from conceding the puckouts to maybe a little bit more of riling lads up, and they're taking the bait. I'm going to be fair about it here now. I thought Conor Cleary had a great game fullback along with John Conlon at 6. I think Brian Lohan, that'd be the first thing he'd be waking up to this morning, was saying, I know my 3 and my 6 now for the 16th of, well, we don't play the first weekend, but for the Limerick lads, it's creating this bit of outside noise now, Sean. We're talking about it here this morning. So they're saying, I was listening to the boys in the podcast or some other podcast or whatever, and they're on about Limerick discipline, and it's them kind of sideshows are not a help to you. I found that in 98, like that. You know, we were kind of targeted. We hadn't as much one as Limerick now, obviously, but you know, other things started to come into play that are sideshows that you don't really need.
Probably not, Dalo, no. And I think that any team that's been successful over the last whatever number of years in any sport, there's an element of ruthlessness. Nastiness is probably too strong a word to use, but like all the great teams, whether it is in soccer or whether it is in Gaelic football or whether it is in hurling, they just have that little bit of whatever it takes to get over the line. Now, I suppose the focus over the last couple of weeks, even outside of intercounty stuff, even Cian Lynch in the Fitzgibbon Cup, I mean, that was a ridiculous sending off. But again, it got highlighted, big spotlight stuff, and added to Gerard Hagerty's and Aaron's yesterday. You kind of have fellas now saying 3 sending offs in the last couple of weeks. What's going on in Limerick? But I don't know. I think that the trajectory that Limerick are on versus other teams at the moment, you look at Wexford with a new manager, Cork with a new backroom team. Okay, Kieran is there for the last couple of years, but they're on a completely different trajectory as well, as far as I'm concerned. So if I was inside the Limerick camp, I'd have been delighted with yesterday's result. Absolutely delighted. It was a poor game. When David Fitz got that score, I'd say anyone that was at it, TJ, I'd say the ground just lifted up. They went a point up. Tony TK was buzzing. Tony Kelly was buzzing. He's one of these marquee players that when he's playing well, the whole of Clare come with him. So Limerick were under the cosh there yesterday, big time. It was 15-14. And for me, the score of the game was Dermot Burns way out the field. He'd have been disappointed with a few of his late strikes, all right. But the one that he drew level, and then you could see it on camera, just giving that signal to calm it down. We're here, we'll get there. I thought it was a fantastic result for them. And if I was John Kiley this morning, I'd have said, Aaron, look, Cleary was hanging off him. I know what TJ is saying. Yeah, Cleary was absolutely hanging off him. In a bygone day, what would have happened in the past was a bash ball coming in, a ball coming in on the ground, a fella would have pulled high or maybe pulled a little bit knee high maybe, and it would have been classed as a bit of a belting match and drive on. Do you know that kind of way?
This Glenn Rovers tactics, is it?
In the past. Huh?
The Glenn tactics.
There were different ways.
You never pulled a stroke like that, Sean, you know.
He didn't need that, he'd be just done.
Well, the one.
Wouldn't even give him a scratch on the knee, for God's sake. But I think what Aaron did, I could see he was frustrated. He'd been spoken to just beforehand. He shouldn't have double swiped, TJ. He probably deserved to go. But look, there's a bit of frustration there, and I had a tiny bit of sympathy for him, to be honest. I think he's a class player, and I think you're right there. The focus on Limerick now is everything. We spent the last 10, 15 minutes on about them. They're on a different trajectory. They got a good result. They got a good draw. Like all the different tactical stuff that TJ's on about is bang on. The other thing, though, is he said it as well. Their handling was very poor. Gerard Hagerty's handling was poor. Cian wasn't getting it to hand. That sharpness just wasn't there. I'd say no for the next 6 weeks. It'll be hurling. For all the different things and the different tactics that other teams will deploy to try and counteract their brilliance, I think Limerick's hurling has to go up 60-70%. And I've no doubt it will. And when you get Sean Finn back in there, you get a real fit Cian Lynch and Aaron Gillan. You get Gerard Hagerty. Gerard has that tendency in his career to go a little bit streaky, and then bang, he can take off. He played in Limerick a couple of years ago, the year 2019, O'Callaghan got man of the match against Aaron Gillan. Gerard was poor enough. Rob Downey had played well in him. He was a bit streaky, had a few wides. But when he gets his groove back, I don't think there's a better player in the game. I'd say all those fellas now will really have a look at themselves for the next 6 weeks. And I could see a ferocious Limerick come the middle of April. Big time.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if Kylie said yes to the lads, go away for a couple of days, do whatever you want. I'll see you Thursday night. Championship starts Thursday night. And they have been in heavy training, like. There's no doubt about that. And that was a tough match yesterday. No matter what you say, lads, Jesus, it was like the law of the jungle at times. That's hand passing and steps, our referees are gone obsessed with them. Jesus, there was blatant freeze there yesterday. Pulling and dragging and trips. And
the hand passing was an interesting one though, Daly, isn't it? Or Dalo?
Oh,
like, they got the Shamie Hardy one wrong. You'd have sympathy for the ref because it happened so hard. I actually saw Shawnee Crowley on Twitter this morning. I thought he made a good point. He was on about maybe that the penalty for a bad hand pass might be a bash ball. No, I think there's two mistakes with the hand pass at the moment, or two kind of different infringements. If a fella's been bottled up and he's been held and his kind of hand passing hand is being held, it's very hard to get that motion off. So I'd have sympathy for a fella when he fouls the ball in that instance. I have no sympathy for a fella when he takes a ball and he gives a quick hand pass. Do you know this kind of 1-2 motion?
Quick throw.
No, that's a throw. Yeah. And even when you're coaching yourself, you'd say to fellas in the drill, when you do the square and you do the hand passing drill, lads, get the hand pass right. I think there's two fouls on hand passing at the moment. One of them I have sympathy for, the other I don't. And I think the two of them should be penalised differently. In the huddle where a fella's been bottled up, I actually logged it yesterday. Jason McCarthy, with about 15 minutes to go, his touch was just slightly off. Bang! Cian Lynch and Will O'Donoghue absolutely swallowed him up. He couldn't move. So his touch was off, he got swallowed up, and he committed a foul. Now, I think he overplayed it at the time. But when a fella is being held up like that, it's very hard to release. I think the penalty in that instance could be for both teams, for the fella that's doing the bottling up and for the fella who's not releasing in time. But the other one is definitely a free then. I think the one where a fella catches it and gives the quick pass and literally throws it, I've no problem with that.
Yeah, two things there, Dalo. I've heard a couple of things where people have said that if you throw it up with one hand, you have to hand pass with the other hand. That definitely won't work, because if you're in a tackle situation where one hand is in, you can only hand pass with one hand. And I've also heard one where you can only hand pass off the hurley. That won't work either, because you carry the ball into contact. Then you know yourself, even in the drills, you're teaching guys, when you go into contact, you make sure you keep the ball in the hand that free, then you offload the ball, right? But how good... Let's say people are good to, let's dispossess guys, right? If you don't have that hand pass really, really quick, right? That like you don't get a chance to get that motion in, like they will knock that ball away from you very quick. And teams are training that. And in the small sided square, as we said, in the training, where you bring the intensity up, right? Yeah, people might be throwing it in training and stuff, because otherwise you won't get that ball away quick enough. And in training, you probably as a coach, you don't want to stop it every single time, because then the whole thing just breaks down. So, yeah, it's a challenge in the game, but it's also a challenge to get the calls right. And they're so good at it and so quick at it, that separation. Like, what's the rule saying? Just there has to be separation there. It doesn't have to be any certain length. But, like, these guys are really, really, really good at it now and really slick. So it is a challenge for the officials.
The boys showed it last night. There was times when the player had his back to the referee. He couldn't see whether there was a touch in it or, me hand passing the table here is no help.
Yeah. I actually think part of what the referees are doing is actually following the hand motion after the hand pass has been made. If it's a kind of a looping forward one, they're kind of more inclined to blow that. Whereas I think if you just palm it and don't follow through, that possibly it looks different. It's impossible for a referee at the moment to see whether there is separation or not. I think they're making some of it up from how they're viewing where the hand, what happens with the hand after there's a contact with the sliotar. The biggest question is whether it's going to be carried through into the championship. So, I mean, I'm not for handing the ball off the hurley or any of that. Like, it just needs to be a little bit more evident that there was a bit of clean contact. And I think if you look at most of the stuff that's highlighted in the television, there nearly always is a separation with the sliotar from the hand. But I would say having been at...
Do you know the way in the league every year there's a focus, let's say, on one particular thing, there's a strike and hitting the helmet or whatever. I think the coaches will be picking up on this come championship, because you won't want to give away a cheap free with a poor hand pass. So I do think that there will be a tweak on both sides. Maybe the referees won't be as picky, but I think the coaches will be aware of this as well. And I think that they might be trying to make sure you get that what definitely looks like separation in, so the referee can't give a cheap free away.
Yeah.
Is there any chance, Shani, that if we change the law, won't happen this year, that the hand pass off the hurley is the only hand pass you can give, right? Is there any chance the game would return to a bit more? You get it and you clear it down the field, and another 50-50 tussle for the ball, and would that? I'm trying to weigh it up. Like I'm trying to, like in Parnell Park on Saturday night, it's just so frustrating. The play is going on. There's a few hard hits. Some fella gives a hand pass or a throw. I don't know. Paddy Dwyer sees it as a throw. He blows it. I'm inclined to think at this stage they're like the lads in the speed vans. They have to catch X amount at the moment. Like, and we're being told, like I've been chit-chatting to a few referees, and they're saying for come hell or high water, this has been enforced in the championship. It's a blight on the game, throwing the ball. So like for me, like it's no fun going watching the games anymore. Like the crowd are exasperated.
To answer the question, then Dalo, you'll take the contact out of the game if you go off the hurley only, because the player, he just won't be able to go into contact if he knows he can hand pass off his hand. He just won't be able to do it.
Will he hit the ball down the field then?
Very possible.
Possibly. The only
would it be
thing
nice to see it back?
It would, Dalo, yeah. It would be a more direct game. The only thing is, I think it's an underestimated skill in the game as well. Like the best hand passer of the game ever that I saw was DJ, probably from his handballing days. He could nearly hand pass it as long as a strike. A great goal on Sunday night or Saturday night was John Donnelly. He was only on the field 2 minutes. The easy option would have been to clip it over. He went on a quick solo run and a brilliant hand pass to Mossy Keown. So I think to look at it in isolation and say, with the rookie stuff and the frustration, the other parts to a hand pass that to me are the best pieces, say, are going in on a solo run and a hand pass. Jamie Hardy's one on Saturday night where he changed hands. Remember DJ used that as well. Soloing on your left hand, flicking that hurley. That's an unbelievable skill. Flicking the hurley onto your left hand and then hand passing off the opposite hand. He passed the ball into Sean Toomey and then Martin came off and made a great save. It was a great save. But no, like I know what you're saying, but I'd rather see it be policed, maybe penalised in different ways. But I certainly wouldn't be for getting rid of the hand pass because I think it's a fantastic skill. And the onus, as TJ said, is maybe in the training ground for coaches to coach it better. And if it's breaking down in the drill, to stop it. Like you won't believe this now. You might laugh at this. I'm training a hockey team at the moment.
I don't believe you, right? And I am laughing at it, but is it boys or girls?
I'm training
the Blackrock Road now.
I'm training Ashton's on the 14 hockey team, all right? And
McGrath, you're unreal.
We were beaten by Gary Duff 9-2 on Saturday, right? So we
nearly as bad as United.
But we trained on
Sunday. The fantasy Holland team. Go on.
We trained on Sunday, right? And you're not allowed to kick the ball in hockey. Right? Now, I should have known that before I took up the team because I was coaching them for the last couple of weeks to kick the ball. But when we went back in training on Sunday, it's weird. I spent the whole session doing nothing but making sure they didn't kick the ball. You know, that kind of way. Now, I know this might be a brilliant example, but all Sunday mornings was, stop kicking it. And maybe at some stage when they go back hurling training, these coaches will just make sure that they get the hand pass right. Because
you're like every Gaelic football coach in the country. Like, stop kicking it. You're like every Gaelic football coach in the country. Stop kicking it.
Actually, on the kick, can I bring up another one? On the kick? Did you see Paddy Purcell's goal for Laois and Antrim?
Yeah.
What made that goal was his kick. He missed the first 2 picks, and his kick was a beautiful cushion pass on. And that's another skill in hurling. And
Keane Lynch did it as well. And Ennis, remember he lost his hurley, did you?
Yes.
He was a great soccer player.
And remember years ago we used to play the shinty.
Oh, yeah.
We would go over and we 97 we went to Oban. Were you on that trip, TJ? We went to Oban in 97.
I only played shinty in Galway. I didn't play. Yeah. I didn't make the away trip.
You played in Snow.
I was in Inverness and a Limerick man made a comment in Inverness airport on the way home, and myself and the Sparrow got another night in Dublin out of it. security weren't too impressed. They didn't realise he was saying it now. It was an innocent remark. But, we were held up for about 2 hours, so we missed the connecting flight to Shannon. Never look a gift horse in the mouth. Like, had to ring Martin Coffey in the bank. Mark could say, "You won't believe, Martin." I says, "The flight was delayed coming from Inverness, so I won't be in tomorrow." Coffey, to be fair, like he wouldn't screw you for one.
I don't have any problem with Martin. No problem. He'd be cool.
I'm just thinking, I lost my train of thought there. I know I brought it up. When they modified the shinty and hurling games, remember they made it a kind of hybrid. The hurler wasn't allowed pick it and catch it. He was allowed catch it out of the air. And the other change was that the hurler wasn't allowed kick it.
Yeah.
And there was a load of fouls. And I think kicking and hurling is a great skill as well, like the hand pass. So I'd be for getting the hand pass right more so than eradicating it and getting out of the game.
But what I will say about that now, we have to move on from the hand pass. Well, we gave it no time last week, and I suppose it was more topical this week, but we got bogged down with all the big games. I don't see any reason though why John Donnelly couldn't have hand passed that ball off the hurley. Do you know what I mean? He had broken inside.
Okay.
He was solo. All he had to do was that offload to Martin Keown. And DJ, if you remember, because I was close enough to be a witness, a good few of them, did hand pass an awful lot of those ones off the hurley. He was deadly at that. Like, he'd be solo and he'd just like that. He'd catch it with his left hand on top, left hand on the hurley, throw it up, and the right hand, of course, he was a brilliant handballer, obviously, not Ireland champion, world champion. But I think that would be still there, and the hand pass would be available to you. And I don't know. I'm wondering, does this go into contact the whole time and lay off? And is it making football out of hurling an awful lot? Would this bring back a bit of the old hip to hip and mano?
Yeah. Well, there's a couple of things.
There was a time when you could hand pass the ball into the net. How many All-Ireland and Munster finals were won from fellas almost palming them in like that? So like
Ray Cummins.
Plenty of goals, yeah. So maybe, yeah. Definitely the rocks and all that are definitely stifling the game, and it's frustrating. No, counter that to like the Waterford and Tipp game was really attritional. The first 15 minutes, it was ferocious, heavy contact stuff. But wasn't the Cork and Galway game? Just Shemi Harnedy had nearly 6 or 7 seconds at one stage to score in the first half.
No, it was zero mark.
It was unbelievable open, wasn't it?
But I'm going to make, and I was going to come back to TJ's point earlier on about, I actually think the size of the fields have a bit to play in this now as well. Okay, so I think you may have to adjust your thinking when you're going to a Welsh park or you're going to a park Equive or a Thurles or a Cusack park, right? I know Daly will tell me the Cusack park is as big as Thurles, but it just doesn't feel that way when you're in the ground, right? It feels a lot tighter. And certainly in Park Equive, we all know that there's vast, it's vast, it looks huge, like, and there's a way more space in it. I think Limerick will actually prosper an awful lot better when they go into a bigger pitch. I think they will be able to get their game plan going, their possession game, and they're very good at finding a man in space. So I think that
is the same size as Thurles.
As I was going to say, yeah, you were going to make that argument. I just said it feels different. You're going to tell me what? You're going to tell me Welsh Park is the same. No, but I can tell you this.
I don't know about Welsh Park. I'll meet you. We'll go over. Collect me here. We'll go over. We'll get out our roller. We'll do Simple Stadium. We'll do Cusack Park, and then we'll go for a couple of pints. Two of us, and we can agree that it's the same size. And
you're not going to bring TJ with you. Jesus, this is the road trip. This is the road trip of all road trips. We're going to measure the pitches.
Measure the pitches. Yeah.
I don't drive. I could be the designated driver.
Okay, you don't drink.
I go shotgun, Johnny. I'm shotgun.
Yeah, before we get away from it, I think one or two other things about the game. Credit to Clare. They have a couple of nice players. Shane Meehan is a lovely inside forward. One or two really, really nice influences in the game. I think the decision to disallow Davy Fitz's goal was a poor decision. I thought Sheedy said it was marginal last night. I thought it was a no-brainer. I thought it was a definite goal. Even live at the time, like you could see Davy Fitz running from deep. And they created 2 decent goal chances in the second half, again, like as opposed to Limerick, who didn't threaten the goal at all. So I would say definitely positives for Lohan there. I know the boys are coming back. And the last point I'm going to make is that from Clare's point of view, they had Peter Duggan in a one-on-one for a nice piece of that second half there, certainly the last 10 minutes, and they didn't really use him. No, I don't know if he would have been able to pick a ball off Dan Morrissey or not, because they were picking each other up. It was a one-on there, and they didn't decide to use it. But definitely options there for him. Tony Kelly, there was flashes of him. I know he had a couple of wides there in the second half, which he'd normally bang over, but he still scored 11 points, I think, 3 from play. So definitely coming back to his best. So definitely from Laoin's point of view, they'll be a fair test in the park during the summer, or I would say during April and May for sure.
Yeah, and 2 matches in Thurles, 2 matches in Innis, DJ. It's very straightforward, Clare's campaign, and I liked a lot of what I saw now yesterday. I was only listening, but for me, like David Fitzgerald, David McInerney, with all the experience he has, Jason McCarthy, that's the best I've seen out of them fellas in a couple of years, maybe 3 years. They're capable of that. They are top-class inter-county players, but for some reason, they haven't been given it, or we haven't been getting it out of them. And I'd say that's the biggest thing for Brian. He won't tolerate lads not putting it in. And these fellas have been left out of the 26s now, and maybe the message is sinking in now that if I want to be playing in the first round of the Munster Championship, I have to stand up and deliver. And those 3 stood up and delivered yesterday. And they were all in that combat zone, which is huge against Limerick. And for me, that's my biggest take out of it from a Clareman's point of view, that we've all our players back. We mightn't have the depth that a Waterford or possibly a Cork have, even a Limerick, but we have as good a 18, 19 guys as anyone in Munster. Limerick being ahead of the posse, or so we've said all along. And we still allow that from. I still think there's a reason they'll be even money favourites, or they were 8-13. But I don't think Clare have anything to fear from anybody else in Munster.
No. And you have one exceptional player in Tony Kelly.
That's it. It lifts the whole lot.
He's unbelievable. Like, he's just, and like, even his introduction just from last weekend to this weekend, you can see the performance levels have increased significantly.
Yeah.
So he's a key man in your setup, Anthony, going forward.
Yeah, no doubt. And look, good optimism around. I know Limerick, we're probably saying Limerick didn't win, and yet from a Clareman's point of view, I'm kind of delighted. And I'd say, Sean, what you said as well, Shawnee, Kylie be kind of half happy as well. Things are beginning to, to stop the rot of the defeats. And look, we leave that one there. We'll go back to Saturday, lads. I was in Parnell. I was doing the co-commentary. Tough enough game to co-commentate on. As you know, TJ, when you're co-commentating, you'd like a bit of a contest, and you're trying to get excited yourself to build it up for the viewer at home, and then it just fades out. And I'll tell you, lads, disappointed as I was with Dublin, maybe it's just one of those dog Dublin nights that I've often referred to. Didn't turn up at all, looked leggy, whatever was going on, training, whatever looked. I know O'Donnell being out was a huge blow just before the off. But lads, I was impressed with the stripey men. I tell you, I was impressed when you think about what has to come back as well. I just thought maybe we were beginning to say, will they be in the tree in Leinster? I came out. I walked back down as far as Fairview because it was impossible to get a taxi, or could have jumped on a couple of buses. And I said, I'll keep walking. And I missed the first 15-20 minutes of the Cork Galway game as a result. But geez, I was impressed with them, lads. There was a lot to like. Walter, Porrick, Walsh, centre forward, Mossy, Keown. I like Billy Ryan. And then this David Blanchfield, lads, wing back on Sutcliffe as well, who has been Dublin star man in a great run, winning the World Cup and the first few rounds of the league. Hugh Lawler, outstanding at full back. And Paddy Deegan then sitting in the pocket. When you consider what's not there, and they'll have a say, lads.
Okay. Well, everything about Kilkenny at the moment is, for the last maybe 2 or 3 years, being said is that they're not as good as what was there before. The talent isn't there compared to, but as you said, Dalo, the talent that's there is as good as any other inter-county. I mean, comparatively, yes, they don't have Henry, or they don't have Jackie Tyrrell, and they don't have Tommy Walsh and these guys. But I'll tell you something, that lad Butler isn't too bad in the corner. DJ's lad outside is a good player. Blanchfield, like what they have is defenders that can really defend. I suppose a lot of the modern defenders are very mobile, athletic, and like to come up the field. Like Blanchfield, from his strikes and the scores he wasn't really motoring up the field from midfield or up towards half forward. They were just big, open the shoulder, massive strikes from the half back line. But for me, they was one of the best goalkeepers in the game. And then they have 6 really teak, tough defenders. And they've got, I suppose, no standout forward, but hard-working forwards that all play for each other with a bit of class, and then the likes of, obviously, Wally Walsh, who's just incredible, and Airily just a monster. So, yeah, I agree with you. They're going to be a hard nut to crack during the summer, but they're going to be or during the spring, summer, the early season, obviously. But, they were very impressive.
Yeah. Like I didn't see the game. Sorry, I didn't see the game, Dalo, but I was listening to it on the radio. I was travelling actually to a removal, and
Seanie McGrath was
the one thing that Seanie McGrath kept saying on the radio was the fact that Donald Burke and Danny Sutcliffe were so back from goals, and the Dublin full forward line was starved for possession. And when you look at it at the end of the game, you had Ronan Hayes taken off and Mellett taken off, and this is the typical syndrome of the corner forward syndrome. We take off the corner forward, but he's got no supply of ball. And that to me is one of the issues. The other thing I would say is that, and I presume you might touch on it later on, is that I think there was a backlash to the tragedy over the weekend of Henry's brother Paul that passed away. And in typical Kilkenny fashion, they came out fighting for their men, as they always do. And I would have been one of the fellas last week that would have said that I thought Kilkenny would struggle to get into the three. I do think there was I want to pass on my sympathies, obviously, to the family. We might come back to that in a while, but I think, like, I have tremendous respect for Kilkenny, as you know, and for the last 2 or 3 years while this podcast is on, I'd be always in the Kilkenny camp. And I think certainly that performance on Saturday night was part of it was born on the tragedy, I think, that befell Ballyhale and Kilkenny and the Shefflin family in particular on Saturday night. But I'd have to say Dublin also then, having not seen it, but listen to Seanie McGrath, their forwards are starved of the ball. Like Danny Sutcliffe and Donald Brock are two very, very good forwards. They seem to be an awful lot taken out of the game or way back out of the action. You were at the game, you saw that more for me, but I don't really have anything more to say on it, really, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'd say right, you're on point, I'd say, Mark, with it. And look, on behalf of us all on the Irish Examiner podcast, we just extend our sympathies to the Shefflin family, Tifa and the children, and to the extended Shefflin family, losing a husband, a father, a son, a brother. And by all accounts, an awful sound, a gentleman completely. Eric Flynn is on the Clarecastle management. We would have played Fitzgibbon with Paul. I think they might have shared a house as well for a while. So you could not meet a nicer guy, So, yeah, just, doing everything right out for a run on a Friday and your life is cut short like that. So, look, I think it overshadowed a lot of the weekend, but I got a bit of that. And as well, Mark, watching the warm-ups, I thought Kilkenny were desperate focused in the warm-up. Like, whoever was taking the warm-up, I don't know, was it James McGarry or Gurta, one of them, I must find out that. But, God, they moved from section to section to section, all in union, and I thought Dublin were scattered at the other end. First of all, I was arriving into the ground at 5-4. There was Dublin players trying to get parking. The Kilkenny bus was parked and they were all out pucking on the field in their tracksuits. I was saying, and I haven't predicted Dublin to win in the paper. Like, I'm saying, can I take back that article there and write it again?
Yeah.
When you hear about Owen O'Donnell as well, and so. But look, Dublin. A couple of things with Dubs. Those unforced errors were unreal. That sometimes comes back to dog him. I don't know why. Set up, Ronan Hayes, I think he got 2 points, if not 3, from play. In fairness to him, for what he was faced with, it was an awful return, because there was no space there, there was no room. Lawler on top of him, and he Deegan in front of him, and for that. But I also think with the Dubs, rotating your goalie every second match, I don't think that's a good policy. I'm all for having your number one in goal, and Alan Nolan will know this from my time up there. Gary Maguire was my number one. Nolly was my number 2 for most of the 6 years. But I'd always give him a crucial league game. I'd decide just to keep him sharp and keep him tuned in, but I wouldn't tell him which league game he was getting. But this thing of rotating your goalies every second match, I don't think it does much for your defence. Even puckouts now are so strategic, TJ. You have to be in sync, really, with who's the number one, don't you?
Well, he's a hugely important figure in every hurling team now, because he just has so many puckouts and free pucks of the ball. And just on the record of goalies, Dalo, you got your own Murphy call wrong. I'm sure plenty of people reminded you that he only caught the ball twice, and you and the rest of the crowd.
Paul Murphy reminded me anyway.
Yeah. Okay.
No fear, he was up supporting his team. He was watching television. Go on, Murph.
2 or 3 things for me in the game. Dublin were very poor. Again, as you said, they're unforced errors. Defensively, they weren't at the races. To me, I thought it started last year, but Kilkenny are definitely using the ball smarter than they have done in the past. They were the old traditional where you lumped it and you expected fellas to win their own ball. Like, you could see very clearly they're getting the head up, they're moving the ball through the lines very well when they have to. And even Blanchfield there for one of the scores, he's clearly looking for an out ball and he only kind of shoots maybe as the last option. The other thing is Padraig Walsh, potentially a game changer for Kilkenny. He's been a revelation since he's moved to centre forward. The energy he brings, scores from play. And their centre line is definitely taking nice shape with Lawler, Paddy Deacon at 6, Padraig Walsh at 11. Are we looking at possibly TJ at 14 and being left at 14? That's what left there. Yeah, that's what it looks like. And just on Kilkenny, it's looking like they'll have 6 forwards from potentially Padraig Walsh, Owen Cody, Adrian Mullen, TJ Reid, Billy Ryan, Massey Keown, John Donnelly, Wally, who's been rejuvenated and getting scores. Like Alan Murphy, possibly another option as well, right? That's 9 or 10 forwards all of a sudden, which is feeding back into Cody, where he'll have them chomping at the bit, all fighting for their place. So it looks like as if, something nice is coming together there with a nice team.
Yep, no doubt. And I'd say watch that space. It'd be interesting to see what approach Waterford take in 2 weeks' time. But they're going well. But sticking with Saturday night, I missed the first 20 minutes, obviously, walking around in North Dublin City, trying to get a taxi. But you're going well, the Corkonians. It was a funny old match. I'd say also overshadowed, lads, by the tragedy that had unfolded the previous day with the Galway lads. I thought, Richie O'Neill spoke well afterwards and that, but I just thought, was there a case for maybe this match going back a week? Just imagine Galway players finding that out on I know they only get to know Henry as well, but he's such an iconic figure in the game. And I just thought it was a funny match, as you said, Johnny, the space, and like Ronan Glennon got 5 points in play in midfield in a losing, lost by 5 or 6 points. So you're saying, who's marking him, lads, in the cup? But look, it's Cork through now anyway, and things are going well. Really liking Darragh O'Leary, lads. Really think he has the tough for a young lad now. He has a bit of everything, I think. And we've heralded Joyce on this show anytime he's been on. Like, I think this O'Leary, I don't think he'll be playing under 20s this year, lads.
No, he's a good lad. I was with John Constantine in 18.
Johnny?
Huh?
Is he the last piece of the jigsaw? The fullback piece fixed? It's
definitely been a problematic spot, I suppose, or we've had sort of makeshift fullbacks, if you want to call. Now, I know the Rock in his day, he was placed centre forward for Klein, but he was a real fullback. And over the last number of years, Cork have had fellas in there that maybe with their clubs or even with Cork and league games could rotate between half-back or full-back. Noah O'Leary himself can play out the field as well. He played minor in 19. I was with John Constantine and he played out the field, but he's teak tough, he's strong, and TJ, he was not a good player. He was one of the best forwards in the game, in fairness, in Conor Whelan. And I think Conor only got a point. Now, he was busy when he went in a few times, Conor, but a lot of the ball he got, he was way out the field. He could do very little with it, really. But O'Leary was good. Yeah, he was good. He was teak tough. And he's solid. The game, it was a funny kind of a game. Like, it was a great atmosphere. It was a big crowd there. I think, Daly, you're on point, all right. Like, it probably could have gone back. A week or so. And even though Galway were beaten, and probably well beaten, they still scored well. Glennon scored. I thought Tom Monaghan was very busy right half forward. Gavin Lee got 2 or 3 lovely little points.
18 wides as well.
Huh?
18 wides.
They had a lot of wides, yeah. And sloppy wides. Conor Cooney towards the end. His frees were good, but they were kind of shooting outside a little bit when it would have been wiser to maybe recycle. They just did seem to lack a bit of zip. But from Cork's perspective, they can only play what's in front of them. Their game plan, they're going fierce patient. They're going across the field and they're going backwards if they have to. Cameoed by Patrick Horgan's first score from play, where it was ping-ponging for a while. The Adams waited until Hoggy was really free one-on-one inside, and then the crossfield ball came in. He won it and he slipped it over. So I'd say that's very much, sure Mark would know, very much the sort of Pat Mull, Noel Furlong influence, particularly Pat Mull, I'd say, from the Newtown days. Pat would never be a fan of corner flag stuff. I'd say very much recycle, best man in best position. To be honest, it can be a hard watch at times when it's going cross-field, but I get it. I mean, the game has changed and it's about finding space, creating space, playing it to the best man. And Cork got that down to a T. They got a great goal and they scored well again. They're not 26 points, which has been their average all season. So they're scoring well. So at the moment, yeah, it's flowing, but I still think there's a bit to go yet. I wouldn't be getting terribly OTT with it yet, but at the moment it's good. Yeah, we're very, very happy with progress.
Happy, Marco?
Yeah, I suppose for me on Saturday night, it remained at 3 or 4 points for most of the game, and I felt the Cork were probably 6 or 7 points a better team on the night. I agree with you that Galway missed a couple of scoreable chances and didn't put Cork to the sword, or didn't bring it down to maybe a point, or put a squeeze on them really. That 3 or 4 points stayed between the teams. But Cork had an awful lot of possession, Anthony. And for me, if you are serious contenders for the All-Ireland, you'd want to be putting a bit of distance in the amount of possession that they had on Saturday night. The other factor I felt was that 3 or 4 occasions presented themselves for goals, and the players were happy enough to tap the ball over the bar. The only incident where I thought late in the game when Hannity went through, he could have tapped the ball, but he didn't. He was probably straight in front of the goals and he went straight at it. But there was a number of occasions where I would say Robbie and Jack O'Connor, and they have blistering pace. And I just go back to a couple of incidents down through the years, and the one that sticks out to me is the Tipperary against Cork a couple of years ago. One of the players in the corner could have put the ball over the bar. John McGrath, someone pulled away, and it was a crossfield ball, came straight into his hand, bang, back at the net. And I think for Cork, if Cork got to win, and maybe win an All-Ireland, I think they'll have to score 2 or 3 goals, because I don't think any team will allow them, when it really gets into the melting pot of championship, that they won't allow them to run at them. Like Cork have gone with pace. There's no point in saying otherwise. And from their half back line right up along the line, right, they have a huge amount of pace. They have players coming on the shoulder, and they're coming flat out, and there's just a pop pass to them, and they're taking it on and breaking that line and getting the score. So I'm full agreement with Seanie. There's nothing done yet, but it is much improved from the past, I suppose. And the other thing I suppose I would say is that when it breaks down, it doesn't look good. It's very frustrating. And I thought that sometimes there was an over elaboration on the ball, but that's only being really picky. I thought the attitude, and I would pick out Patrick Horgan. I thought Patrick Horgan's application for the last number of games I've seen has been excellent, and he's been a very, very good player for the last number of years. But this year's performances, he has added a new thing to his game. He is really, really working hard, and he has very good pace as well. So I think overall we'll be happy enough. And when you looked at the group at the start of the season, the likes of Galway and Limerick, I suppose, inside there, Clare as well, Dalo. But it was a hard group to try and come out of, but they've qualified with a game to spare. So, I suppose momentum is their way, but they've got to go down to Wexford Park now and see, whether they want to be top of the table or not, because that game will decide that. And, probably Waterford will probably come out the other side. I think Waterford might top the other side. So, top first and second, they cross over in the 2 leagues. So you could have from a Cork point of view, you'd rather a league semi-final against Dublin probably than facing into Waterford. I think so, yeah. I think so, yeah. And even for the neutral out there, I think and Seanie, we would have played the '98 league final against Waterford, 45,000 people in a sweltering hot day, and it was a huge game for us as a young team, and probably made the team, Anthony, too, because with a huge amount of young lads playing that time. And I think it's something similar this time round. And I do think, I think it might be to Cork's downfall later on in the season that they get to a league final. And we've seen that already. We discussed this the last about '98. where we would have had a good winning OVE in the semi-final, and then 4 or 5 weeks later he came back and he bet the lad out of it. So I think there's signs of that happening again, and that's where having a big panel is very important. Limerick now, in a fortnight's time, would be able to go away and shut themselves away from everybody, whereas the likes of the Corks and the Waterfords and other teams are going to be in a semi-final of the league and final, maybe. There'll be a lot of focus on that, whereas Limerick will come to Cork on that first weekend, and we'll be a sitting duck, I suppose, is really what it is. But look, we'll take a couple of victories. We take a couple of victories in that one at the moment, but we are forewarning, that Limerick will be coming with a head of steam. But I still think if there's a National League medal to be got, there's none of those players on the Cork panel have one now, and they should avail of the opportunity if it presents themselves.
Yeah. I'd say the way you're going, Mark, but the deal is that the league is done and dusted the way they're playing, isn't it? It's over. They're the best team in the league.
I know a man who has a tiny little. I know a man that has a tiny little accumulator, €6.50. I won't mention his name now, but he has whoever won the African Nations Cup up. He has, wait till I see now. Oh Jesus, I can't. Oh, he has Ballygunner up to win the All Ireland Club. He did this now last year. He's waiting anyway for about 5k for Waterford to win the league. So he's a bit of a sweat on for €6.50. I saw the cash out. He sent me the docket. It is a substantial cash out now for your €6.50. But you'll nearly be saying, hang on to it. But come here, Shawnee. I suggested maybe...
Before we ask Shawnee, can I ask Marco one question? When Hoggy scored a goal,
I was going to fucking come to you.
Oh, sorry. Was he getting at you there, Marco? No,
Shawnee might know better, clubmate, like.
Yeah.
Who, Shawnee, what was that about? Hoggy.
The fellas, yeah. Giving out about him.
Yeah.
It's a
I suggested maybe Impact Sub might be the role this year, like Larry is saying there, ever since Dalo retired him, like, in the comments section.
Yeah.
It's a hard one, isn't it? I'd say it was probably geared towards management.
Ooh. Will you text him there and find out?
I would say that he wouldn't like to talk, I'd say, the last couple of weeks about this Impact Sub stuff and a bit part role. So I'd say...
We started that here.
Oh, did you? I tell you how often I listen to you.
That was Mark.
When they come out, I get to it.
That's what I was saying.
Come here to me.
With all these young lads, would there be an evolution in a certain age now, Huggy? So I kind of felt it myself, like, when I saw it.
Remember Satan they used to do the wave years ago?
Yeah. It's like Dermot Burns and Innes. Like, I think all the shouting and roaring was going on behind him when I could take, like, Lohan and the boys in the Clare bench were animated when the last free was given, and Burnsy turned back. Love watching Burns hurling, you have to say. Like, he's always calm. Like, he just turns back and kind of goes, calm down, lads, calm down. It's not the league. Like, it's just... And Huggy was giving it to someone anyway.
Yeah.
Sorry, Huggy, if we offended you there. We always have admired you on this show. Like, so look, there's no problem there. The work rate, as you said, Mark.
I'd love to see Mark Keane facing the ball. I haven't forgot about him. We spent 10 minutes on him there a couple of weeks ago, and he's like a forgotten man now. We have a full back, but I wouldn't mind seeing him in the corner.
His size, his pace, yeah.
I'd like to see him play now. I think
it's ideal day now to have a look at that maybe the next day.
Yeah, definitely. I'd love to see him playing in the full back line. Sean, I don't know who's one position nailed down, and there's about 3 fellas that skirting around for the other 2 positions. I'd like to see Mark Kane's name put in it. I think he's better facing the ball, and I think he's a good, decent hurler.
Okay.
I like Niall O'Leary, huh?
Kieran always listens to this show on a Monday night before he goes to sleep. Kieran Kingston. So Kieran Marco has given me the advice there.
He'd have a restless night listening to this now. I can tell him he's out there.
I'd say Kieran don't lose too much sleep over this pod, but anyway. Well done to Cork so far, and Wexford, just to say again, Wexford. Awfully signs of improving a bit, TJ. 2 good kind of 55-minute performances in a row, Clare and Wexford. Definitely hard to get up to the speed of this level when you're coming from where they're coming from. but learning all the time, I'd say.
Yeah, 100%, and like it does take time. Like once you get back up there, because you find out very quick against the better teams, they punish you for goals. But certainly, I think it was there in 55 minutes, like they were fully in the game. That's exactly what they want and look to build on. You know, I suppose they probably have a tough enough fixture coming, and we'd like to think here in Limerick that we will beat them in the last round of the league. And I suppose from Offaly's point of view, then that potentially, like they would have a big game coming down the track. But yeah, I would say at the start of the league, you would have said that they would probably struggle early doors. It's going to take a bit of time. Their players are improving, and I'm hearing good things about their underage as well. Like their under-17 team is supposed to be very cool, and that's what they'll need. And Mike Fennelly's done a great job. You see the shape of them, the way they're going about their business, look very structured and very organised. Now they will continue to improve. No doubt about that, yeah.
It's looking like themselves and Antrim now. I'm presuming they'll both lose their last matches, right?
we might eat our words there.
I know, but it is looking like they'll meet in the league playoff to go back to 2A, right? Now they'll also be having a massive Joe McDonagh game in a few weeks. I wonder which is the bigger game, lads, in terms of development for both counties. It's a fair thinking one, isn't it?
Yeah.
You win the Joe McDonagh, fair enough. You're up into the Leinster Championship, but like that's tough going as well. You're meeting Galway, Kilkenny, Wexford, the Dubs. Like, is it better to be in Division 1 of the league next year and stay in Joe McDonagh and learning more and didn't win in your Joe McDonagh the following year?
Definitely.
I think yes for me, Dalo. Do you know what? Yeah. I think it'll be a very harsh on either side, because like teams have played very well. Like Antrim have been very good in the league. You know what I mean? Like I know you can say, look, it's about results at the end of the day. And Offaly are definitely steadily improving. So it'd be a terrible kind of end of league for whichever team has to drop to 2A. Just not nice.
Yeah, and like it's tough on Antrim. I'm going to say this: like you can't blame Cheddar and his players. They focused in. There was one game that to win in that division to keep them in Division 1. But like the trimming they got from Waterford, and you still think Neil McManus had a penalty to draw with Waterford, possibly the form team in the country at the moment. And they just can't get over Laois at the moment. Same in the championship playoff last year. But they've been consistent, but it's tough, isn't it, when you lose out like that? I'm not taking away from Laois at all now. Laois hurled very well with 14 men for a long, long period of that game. And they had some huge performances.
They had, but like Antrim will have to be kicking themselves to leave this happen to them, because the same thing happened to them again last year. But they knew the stakes that were involved yesterday. They knew going down to Portlaoise. They knew Laois's modus operandi will be one game. Lads, just give us one game, 160, 70 minutes, right, and we'll get the result that we need to stay up. Then when Mark Kelly gets sent off after 20 minutes, you're saying to yourself, okay, we are going to get this. Then they level up with 2 minutes to play. They get a 65 and they hit the 65. And in fairness, Neil McManus has been brilliant for them. But he's been brilliant, but he's been brilliant all through, to be fair to him. But that 65 was a critical one. And Jesus, he got another chance from play straight after it. And he didn't nail either of the two of them. And that just tells you the pressure that's on fellas. Because if you're in the Antrim management and you're down in Gleeson, you're saying to yourself, at least it has fallen to the right fella. We got our opportunity and we still didn't take it. And it must be gutting, to be honest with it, because like they were forewarned, like they knew it was coming for them, and they should have been able to see it out, because they've had a couple of tremendous performances in the league, and
there was a 45 points. If the draw had occurred, Mark, there were 45 points score difference ahead of Laois. Like,
that's right. Yeah.
And you were saying it was looking like a draw right at the death, and they didn't take the chances, and Laois got the one chance and took it. And credit to Laois, you have to learn to see out those ones. And I suppose, Marco, yourself and Charlie, great atmosphere in Walsh Park. You got in free again, of course. If you fell out of Burton's window, you'd land in a suit. But 128, TJ, you listed off a possible forward line or forward selection for Kilkenny there. Waterford lads down, Austin, Desi, Pádraig Mahoney, Jamie Byrne, Calum Lyons, and could still beat Tipp 10 points. in Walsh Park yesterday. How impressed are you, Marco? God, we're all getting seriously impressed, I think.
Yeah. Now, before I get to the match, there was 6,000 people at the match, and myself and Charlie were struggling to get a seat. But we saw a damsel in distress, right, with just one seat beside her. So we said, is there any chance we might be able to squeeze in there beside you? So he did. So Charlie started chatting her up anyway and said to her, where are you from? She says, I'm from Tipperary. So I picked up the ball and I said, Jez, you must have someone playing. She said, I do, she said. So she then told me that Brian Hogan was her son. So the balls fall into place. Ken Hogan's wife, a guest on this podcast, has many occasions. Myself and Charlie happened to be sitting beside her. There were 6,000 other people that we could have been sitting beside. So just thank you very much for the cookies at the end of the game, the homemade cookies. Charlie was delighted with them, and I was thrilled. And we had a great old chat now, I must say. And I said to her, the first thing you need to do now when you hop into the car on the way back with Ken is ask him how's he getting on with the fantasy hurling. Because when my man Stevie Bennett was after scoring 116 and he's captain of the fantasy team, I said, whoa, baby, it's going to be a good weekend.
I was listening to the Clare game and I was just checking the score app. And, they give the scorers as well in the big games. Like, all I could see was S Bennett. This is over. Like, this is cruelty.
Yeah.
What did he get? About 80 points he scored for you with double, did he?
80 points. That's his second time doing that. And it's hard to believe that he went to Antrim and he only got 6 points in total out of 322. But Stevie, as I said the last time, I'm going to let you... Oh, look at that. Oh, you little daisy. Shawnee, not so bad. You broke the 500 mark.
Are you down there, Shawnee, somewhere?
I said, Dalo, this fella's in my team, but aren't even playing. I haven't got
Sylvie Linan playing of you.
I said to you earlier, I had John Fenton midfield and Sylvie Linan corner back at him. What on 546 points?
Jesus, like, in fairness, John Fenton, he'd be good at it now, in fairness, but like, he's not on the list, Johnny, when you're going through the
He's retired about 30 years.
Well, Marco, not alone, here's our listeners, our own, and Donna Sullivan, unreal, top of the table on ours, also top of the table in the whole fantasy, and Landers, you're second in the overall, never mind winning ours, lads. If you want to win the overall, you need to be in the podcast league, because this is where the competition is real. I mean, like, I thought I was going right well this year, but of course, the selectors blackguarded me from all the counties there, Austin Gleeson and all these fellas left off. But no, congrats, Mark, and well done, Don. Mount Sign, and some score on the week, 316. And Larry gone into the silver medal position. He could be Schnelly, yes, Marco. There's one transfer window left, like.
The Kenyan is a threat now, there's no doubt about it, because Tipp, I think, are playing Antrim in the last game, so he'll be expecting Jason Ford. Here now is a question. The fact that Shane McCallan is after breaking his finger, will they leave Jason Ford off the next day because couldn't afford to have the two free takers out? There's a big question mark there now. If I was Colin Bonner, I'd be wrapping up Jason Ford now for the championship. So, Larry, if that happened...
The same with Stephen Binnicher. He has to give him a break. He has to play Shane for a few games. And
surely.
Desi has to come in. And Pádraig Mahoney can hit frees too. So, I mean, if I was you, Liam, if you're any chance you're listening, Liam Cahill or Mikey Beavens, just wrap him up now and just put him away for that Tipp game, the championship, because he's crucial to you. Anyway, that's the fantasy. Thanks to Butler Hurlers. And it was great. Just shout out to Owen Rua. Joe Canning was meant to do this for me Saturday night in the commentary, but Owen Rua, great. This is where the money goes, lads. In fairness, great club in Dungannon. Cahill and the lads. I know, Cahill, you were out socialising Saturday night, but you weren't there. But down and played a challenge match in Ashbourne with their under-9s and all into Parnell Park, and they kind of lit up Parnell Park early before the walk-up crowd landed on. There was lads with red jerseys everywhere, and I said, where are these lads with the red jerseys from? And I was saying, we're from Dungannon. So that's shout out to Unruh. It's great to see the few bob we invest and the fun we have out of it is just incredible. And really funny this year altogether. It's exceptionally funny this year. TJ, you haven't really made a major impact. You're just like John Kiley, you're
hovering.
You're waiting for the big stuff.
Yeah, the league, I said, we decided at the outset it wouldn't be really for us in 2022, both Limerick and ourselves in the fantasy. And what I was going to say to Seanie is, if you're looking for advice and getting off the bottom, just talk to Marco. He has been there loads of times before, and he got his stuff together, and he's having one very good run in the league now. It will be interesting to see if he can maintain for the championship. But if you need advice, go to Marco.
It's a Ranieri competition, TJ.
It's a Ranieri, yeah. And he probably would have been 5,000 to 1 to win the league as well, yeah. If the only thing is, credit where credit is due, Marco. You got it sorted. You got your management team right, and you're now only 6 points after you overall. So we'll have to bout you on this occasion. So fair play. Dalo, on the other story we mentioned last week about my Carolyn F and fitting 14 under 14s car. We got a brilliant story through from a chap in Tina Abidunari in Galway, right, who are back in the 80s, and they needed a team to go, and they had a meeting point, and it came in from a tweeter called LC. Basically, they had nobody to take the team, and one of the guys over the team, Willie Joe Cunningham, he was looking after them, and he was also the undertaker in the village, Johnny. So when he arrived, when all the players were there with their kit and gear bag and everything, all that, and he needed to get all of them to the game, there was only kind of one solution in his head, that he needed to go and get the nurse. So the story speaks for itself, but the man is still going strong, and he's still the local undertaker. So, and they did an okay job, because they went on and they won 2 under-16 finals and 2 minor finals and 3-1 final after that or whatever. So he did a great job, but a brilliant story that came in, and you can see it coming together. Basically, when there was nobody else there, he needed to pull out the big wagon, but he got them all to the game anyway, and obviously he did a great job. So
what were they under? What?
It was under 14 at the time. Yeah,
probably a few smart lads in that now saying, lads, enjoy this now, because it's a practice run for later on. It's the reality,
100%. Like. Yeah, that's the reality. So yeah, great story.
Oh, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. Just a quickie, Marco. Just a quickie to throw at you. How worried are you if you're a Tipp supporter after what you saw?
Oh, very worried. Very worried. Yeah. So just go back to the Waterford game. So just the question about Tipp. Okay, first 20 minutes, Tipp were really good. 9 points to 3 up, hurling well. Had whatever breeze was there, were up for it. The minute the goal went in, the whole perplexion of the game changed. Waterford grew in stature. Tipp, I thought, went back into their shell. And they had a goal opportunity. Jake Morris, who tried fierce hard for the whole game, he had a goal opportunity. Probably should have took it on a little bit more when went for the shot off his left and just grazed the post. But overall, I thought Tipp were physically beaten up, I would say, by Waterford. Waterford brought an intensity to the game. And I'll always go back to Dennis Collin in 1990 when we were minors. You would know Dennis very well, Seanie from Glen Rovers. We were playing Waterford in the first round of the league, first round of the minor championship in 1990. And the first meeting we had with him, he says, lads, we're going down to Waterford. And Welsh Park is a graveyard for Cork teams. And that word still rings out in my head. It's a graveyard for Cork teams. Welsh Park is a graveyard for every team, because the lads, in whatever it is about the facilities, and the crowd come in on top of it. And there's a huge atmosphere from the Waterford crowd there. And the minute the goal went in yesterday...
Is that tunnel over in the corner?
Oh, and how they're still allowing 2 teams to come out at the same time and go in at the same time into that tunnel bit on, like, because...
I often bless myself going into that thing.
I feel it. You want the helmet on you there, and you wouldn't want to be jumping too high now, because you definitely scrape the top of the head there, like.
Yeah. Is it bigger than Cusack Park, Marco?
Well, is it bigger than Cusack Park? The surrounds are something similar, like, but we might have to go and bring the tape. We might have to bring the tape there as well.
The diesel has gone dear there, Seanie. Fill it up there, will you? And get on, collect your man there and bait up there. through Mitchelstown, collect the other lad, and then land on here, and we'll do the evening.
Right. We
measure 45
Welsh
going later on there, Shani, just to keep you happy there.
But you know what? With the round robin and Paddy Joe Ryan, in fairness, as chairman of the Waterford County Board, made a big play a couple of years ago that their facilities needed to, and that they were being unfairly treated, that they couldn't have a home game in Welsh Park. And I guarantee you this much, I don't care whether you're Munster champions or All-Ireland champions, you won't like going down to Welsh Park. And the one thing I know, Stephen Bennett yesterday, it didn't matter where he was taking frees from. If you concede frees to Waterford from 100 yards into the wind, against the wind, with the wind, it didn't matter. Stephen Bennett was plugging them from everywhere, and he's their main man. The other thing, is, when I look at the forwards, Neil Montgomery, Patrick Curran, Kieran Bennett, Jack Prendergast, Michael Kiley, there's none of them are jumping off the table like Desi Hutchinson or Shane Kingston or Patrick Horgan or Aaron Gillan or Garrod Hegarty. But by Jesus, I tell you this much, what they give you in effort and work rate is just phenomenal. And that's what I took away from the Waterford game yesterday, is that all their players combined as a team are producing a savagery of work rate. And it doesn't matter who the players are, they'll always give the ball in a better position, the men in a better position. Darragh Lyons did a huge amount of work in the middle of the field. And the one fella that we didn't pick up on it already this year, right, is that Jack Fagan has gone from kind of the half forward line back to the half back line. And he's been rock solid back there. So, and the other player, McNulty, cornerback, was very, very good as well yesterday. So, Caleb Lyons now finds himself in the position, or I suppose the manager finds it. Where are we going to fit in Caleb Lyons? Does he come in at number 2 or does he come in at number 5? Does McNulty go back into the corner, or do they stick with what they have? So, the fact that Barron was out, Ozzy was out, Pádraig Manny actually made an appearance yesterday, Dalo, so he's back in the panel, and Mikey Manny from Ballygunner came on as well yesterday to huge applause. So, Waterford are in a very, very good place now.
How is he going to pick 26?
With great difficulty, and I think, as you and TJ, as two former managers, would know, isn't it a fantastic problem to have, that you're afraid to pick up the phone to tell a fella he's not actually on the 26? Beautiful. Because it means that you have a great panel of players. And, I think Cahill has done an unbelievable, along with Mickey Bevins and the selectors, obviously, they've done a great job with Waterford. And, fullback, I suppose, Conor Prunty and Tyga Burke in front of him were excellent as well. Like the Burke, the same as Mark Coleman, they have that bust of pace. The minute they get the ball in their hand, one sidestep, and it's just gone. They are electric with pace, and obviously striking then is top class as well. So,
and that's after 2 cruciate ligament injuries.
Yes.
He's some man.
Magnificent. He summed me up now. He summed me up to be able to come back to that.
They're not dark horses anymore, lads, are they? They're real contenders. Michael Carruth used to work with us there for a while with the Dublin Hurlers, gas man, Mick Carruth. We used to always say, "Yous are no longer pretenders, yous are contenders." And that's in boxing parlance, of course, and geez, you're saying Waterford, I keep saying that last match in Ennis, Clare and Waterford could be fair amount at stake that day, depending, of course, obviously. Clare having done their bit and Waterford, obviously. Yeah. Okay. Shout out to Kerry and Down as well as top in Division 2A, especially Kerry, big win against Meath, probably predictable. Meath not going well. Down had a brilliant win in Mullingar, lads, against Westmeath. Great shout out to the Down hurlers. They're flying and they're meeting now, but it's looking like if they could engineer a draw, they'd meet again in the final of it. But great incentive there. Great to see Down progressing as well, and Kerry. Just the Kilmiley boys just landing back now in the last week, so they'll be also having a fair say in Joe McDonough, I think, going forward. Fogres couple, lads, I'm going to be just completely biased on this one. Great buzz in the park yesterday. TJ's have to tell us, and I think Clare people on a bit of a high that things might be, a bit of doom and gloom a few weeks ago, and now maybe with TK back and Dougie back in a couple, there's a bit of a buzz. Just a bit of a shout out, lads. We don't have the serious sponsors. We have Pat O'Donnell has been unreal down through the years, but we don't have the big, huge machines that other counties have, like Cork and Tipp and Limerick. So Club Clare, lads, has become crucial for our hurlers and our camogie players. just a shout out to everyone to maybe renew your membership. When we started last year with Club Clare, huge take up and huge response. And just to say, some people it's renewing stuff can be a little bit tricky at times. Just the renewal and new members, of course, hugely great benefits as well. Great little, bits of gear and that they give out. Club Clare has been a revelation, and we just need it. I know Brian and the lads need it as a support mechanism there. And just another one for me, lads, just a sad story really. Mum, Mick Cronin, be only my own age there, Mick Kiskeen, man, but huge Bishopstown, underage, based in the city now, Bishopstown. He's done so much for their underage. Mick had got life-changing injuries last November in a work accident, and we just shout out to Mick as well himself. It's massive progress in his recovery, and keep it going, Mick. We always be thinking about you here. But Bishopstown lads, Paddy's Day and the day after, are having a massive kind of a hurlathon. The whole day from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. They're having matches at every level. That's the link to it. We'll tag it. I certainly retweeted it this morning. So just you can buy an individual game, or you can buy a family pass and whatever. And I think a lovely little, it shows the club coming behind Mick on that, and the family as well. And I said it'd be great old way for anybody to, great GA people look after each other. And I think that'd be a great shout out one to help out on there. And we'll certainly be giving it the plug, and we are giving it the plug. Obviously, we won't have a show next week with no games. So yeah, that's about me. Unless the rest of you have Fogras. We've enough said about fantasy hurling. Shawnee, get your act together for the championship, Shawnee.
Championship, yeah, we'll fix him.
Well, I have a hockey game next. So shout out to Ashton Hockey next Saturday.
Find out who scored the 9 goals against you there last week, and be current.
No kicking, girls. You're not low kick.
No kicking, McGrath. Yeah, the Irish Hockey Council, they always listen to this show as well. So look at you, an up and coming coach in Cork. You want to get him in there, and the National Development Squad there in what's the name of the place? The big place there in West Dublin, out near Blanchardstown. Come on. All the pitches are there, all the Astros and everything.
Oh, Abbottstown, is it?
Abbottstown, all right, Shawnee. Anyway, you all right with that?
Yeah, that's what the racing club is.
Oh, Marco, fire away there, will you? We've an official email.
We have.
Now, have we?
Just yeah. We Jim Balger's actually there's a couple of lovely pictures there. There's Jim Balger there and with his Derby Hope and a couple of lads from the podcast, and Jim Doyle there with us there on the right hand side.
Great.
And there's a picture of McSweeney there, one of the major winners last year. So we've organised
two Cork legends on the right.
There you are,
McSweeney and Landers.
So we have an email address set up, and it's called info@comeonracing.ie. So for people who are interested in joining the racing club, please send an email as soon as you can into that email address. So info@comeonracing. I don't know. No, I presume the come on is spelled right there. CAMAN racing.ie.
What's Rafe? It's doing it, Charlie. They're the home of hurling. Like Rafe won't make a mistake on the Irish, like,
No fathers in the come on. So I like that. It's a nice name. Come on. It's a bit like the hurling. So I suppose, and look, if there are people out there that have a group of fellas that you're representing, one is representing 5 or 6 or 7 fellas, just send in your name and your phone number and the county you're from and the amount of shares that you want. So if you want 1 share, or if you're representing a group of 3 fellas, or there's one fella rang me that said there's 20 fellas on the site want to join the racing club. So whatever the number is, send it in. I think we are limiting it to 500 people. So the first 500 people in are going to be in the racing club. I think we're setting through the chair, Mr. Chairman, up there on the top left-hand corner, Mr. Daly. I think we're settling on €200 as the membership for the year. And that will be an annual subscription, because we intend to be around for a long time. We're not going to be like different syndicates who come and go. This is going to be a racing club for the next 3, 5, 7, 10 years. And there'll be an annual membership of only 500 people, and it'll be an annual membership. So It'll be like, it's going to be ran like a GA club. You have to pay your membership. But we won't be waiting around for 3 months to get the players to pay their membership. It has to be paid on around Cheltenham time is what we're telling fellas. So you'll be fast enough to spend money in Cheltenham, so you'll have to join the racing club as well. And obviously we're going to aligning ourselves to cancer research as well. So the colours, we must have we're looking for a hint of or a tinge of pink in the colours to denote ourselves. And if we're lucky enough to have some prize money at the end of the year, we will be donating to cancer and other worthy charities at the end of the year. So if people want to put forward charities that they'd like to see represented, and if there are funds there available, we will certainly be passing them out. I think Jim Bolger has been back to us, so he has a number of options for us. And just, I suppose, on a side note, I'd like to mention, Jim Doyle has done a huge amount of work in the background, and the last week, and actually not about the racing club at all, he has been involved in getting 10 people out of Ukraine to bring them to Ireland. And Jim Bolger, I just have a text message in there now actually from Jim Bolger. In the conversation this morning, that Jim Bolger offered him a house to house people, a 4-bedroom house. So like that just shows the caliber of person that we're dealing with. That he would have. He's an employee of his whose wife's sister is in Ukraine, and she's bringing 9 of her family. They landed in Ireland actually last night. So that's the kind of work that's going on in the background. And it just shows the Irish person how good they are. Like and to have a conversation this morning with Jim Bolger and for him to offer a house for people as well. That's just the type of person that we want involved in this racing club. So, and that's a humanitarian thing. It's just brilliant. It's just brilliant stuff.
Fantastic. TJ, when are we going? TJ, when are we going on the road trip to the national hunt side of things?
Oh yeah, to be honest, I feel busy myself now for the next 2 weeks. I have a couple of
you're flat out between Anfield and Prestbury Park.
I'm in Anfield tomorrow night. I'm off to meet Thomas's boys on Friday night, and then I go to Cheltenham next Monday for a week. So very busy. I was told a long time ago, Seanie, that it is very important that while you're making a living, that you remember to live. And I'm just trying to make sure that that's what I do.
You're dead right, TJ.
Just make
Gotta enjoy it.
Sure. Yeah,
you were not saving up for a 3.4 mention on the Blackrock Road.
No, I don't need to mention. What I will say is we talk about things like crisis and hurling and different things at different times, which are very serious. There's an awful lot more important things in life, and what happened to the Sheffield family in the last, and other people that Dalo has mentioned, and even what's happening in the Ukraine, like they are actually real crisis. Like, so what we do here on a weekly basis is a bit of fun. We talk about our passion and our pastime, and I suppose it's important to remember that. And just to lead on to that, what Mark has just explained there is for €200, there's an opportunity here to be part of something. And I've used the phrase that it'll take you places that you might never have seen before or thought that or people that you might meet. To have somebody like Jim Bolger on side is brilliant. And he has won everything that's been won in racing, and is 80 years of age. Listen to him, his enthusiasm for hurling and for racing is infectious. I think we'll have good fun along the road here. The plan is that we'll put money into an account which will pay the training fees. These horses will be running in all sorts of tracks all over the country, and maybe even abroad. We might even end up in the UK or Dubai. We'll get all these members into a room sometime, somewhere, where we'll have people like Jim Bolger in the room and other trainers in time. It'll be a network. It'll be great fun. You'll get to hear more and more of Mark Landers pontificating all about great mares and horses and Cork, of course. But it definitely will be good.
Jeez,
fun.
We're trying to get the members in. Will you go handy?
to be part of a club like that, I think it is. So what we're trying to do is here, we just want to gauge to see if we have 500 members. So we want you to express your interest on the email there, and then we'll come back to you, and then we'll talk about the funds. I think this is exciting. I think it'll be good fun, and I think Mark has it all nailed. And the last thing I'm going to say, Marco, is we're going to go away and be quiet now for a few weeks here in Limerick. We're going to say nothing. We're going to not talk about off the field. So what has become really spicy now is the date on Easter Sunday. I'm expecting an invitation. I'm expecting the royal treatment and a cracking game. Don't let me down.
I'll do my best now, TJ, to get a couple of soft seats for you now, because I know I know from dealing with you now the last couple of years, you'd like to be in the centre of the field there now. So I'll try and pull a few strokes, but there could be limited supply that day now.
Just get three. Get
but
three.
I'll try and get one for you.
Get three and put Shawnee on one side of him. You go on the other side of him, then you can keep playing.
Put Shawnee in me left, for God's sake. Like Charlie.
Shawnee on one knee, Charlie on the other.
Yeah.
And Ken Hogan's wife with the cookies.
Sorted.
Anyway, send us on all the winners there today for Leopardstown, will you, and stuff there. Going open in the bar there. Mick Shea's outside. Huh? Good luck.
And Mick. See
Dalo.
See Shawnee.
It's only the Allianz Leagues. It's only February. Only a warm-up. Only a relegation. Only a bit of fun. It's only a debut. Only hundreds of competitive matches and thousands of players giving it their all. Only an unstoppable passion for GA across the whole nation. It's only 30 years of Allianz supporting the leagues, and we're not done yet. Only the leagues. Only the Allianz Leagues.
A grain of rice. A grain of rice is going to tip the scale. Just remember that, lads. There's a small bit of a needle there. Come on, Mayo, you've got to get Andy Moran into the game.
Our mission was to show that we're no longer the